Hey, my name's Joe. Today I'm going to be going over how AI made me a millionaire at 20 years old. So it all started back in 2020. 2020 was the year I graduated high school. Then in the summer, I didn't have anything to do, so I picked up a music making hobby. I tried drop shipping, but I failed. I lost like 6K. And then move into the first semester of university, so still 2020 later in the year. And I contacted Greg Brockman at OpenAI and asked for GPT-3 beta access to work with a team of 9 developers on use cases, and he accepted. And keep in mind that OpenAI, like a while ago, was not as kind of popular as it is now. So emailing Greg Brockman was a lot easier than it is now, but everything was so much smaller and it was just such a great community. And at that time, I got a really good idea of what AI could do for existing business models, but I didn't really act on it because I was busy with school and then I was trying out Amazon FBA. So I had these kind of side projects that were going on, and I thought it would have been cool to start up like an integration consulting firm, but I just didn't get around to it. But I eventually did May 2022. So last year, May 2022 is when I started Elusive Profit, which is my AI consulting firm. I landed like one client in like the first month and then like 3 in the second, but they were all small clients. You know, they weren't anything big, and it was kind of discouraging, but I had failed at so many other things that I kind of almost became desensitized to it at that point. And so I just kept trying. I basically said that I wanted to continue for 6 months and see how it goes. So when the summer came around, I was not doing bad, but I was not doing enough in order for me to say like, oh yeah, I'm gonna not work a part-time job. So I had to go back, and I was working at a sporting store, which sucked. It's always sucked, but I always put in like my 100%. I always put my 100% into everything. During that time, I took like a few consultations, and then in July, end of July, I met with a publishing company, and they wanted to know how to integrate GPT-3 into their tech stack, or just in the workflow really. And I gave them some good advice, and they worked with it. During that consultation, that is when I got the idea to start generating books with AI. And the reason why, I mean, books have been around. Selling books online have been around for a long time. The thing is that with this model, once a trend pops up or you see something trending, like especially if I go on SEMrush and I see something that's about to pop off just based on the analytics that I'm seeing, I can create a product within a day. And right now I'm outsourcing it anyways. So I create a product and then I beat everyone else to it. So basically the product creation is so fast that no one else can catch up to me. And that's happened multiple times over. The only time that like one of my competitors beat me to it was like, it was like 5 days. I spent 5 days on a book because I was just busy. And then he caught up to me. But usually like one day and no one else can keep up to you. And the thing is with PLR as well, you could do PLR, but these books have been sold thousands upon thousands of times and there's no originality to them. So a lot of PLR books stick around for years. And when you're selling a 2019 book in a 2023 market, it just doesn't work out well because, you know, marketing tactics change, creatives, everything's constantly, it's always dynamic. So by taking a book from 2019, 2018, and then trying to sell it today where it's already been sold thousands of times, it just isn't, it's not optimal. I tried it at the start. I was like, you know, because at the start I was taking like maybe 5 hours to generate a book, like the meat of the content. And I was like, okay, well, maybe I can just do this with PLR, but it just doesn't work because you can't fit your books, the predefined topic books of PLR, into a niche that is about to pop off. During August, I made 10 books, and then in September, I generated a little bit over 30. And during that time, I was at my minimum wage job in August. I finished in August, and then I started in September at school again, which is basically this school year that I'm in right now. And so during that time, August and September, I was literally just sinking all the money that I made off of my minimum wage job into Pinterest ads, and my consultation money, the money that I made off of ghost production, it was all going into it. I ended up losing about $2,000 on Pinterest ads before I actually became profitable. And my first profitable day was in October. It was October 3rd. And I hit like $23, I think, in sales. And then this like subsequent day was around 40. I can't remember the exact number. I think at that point, it just felt like, oh yeah, I put in a lot of work. Like, I deserve this. I wasn't super happy. Like I was like, okay, like, something's finally working, right? And you're like, okay, here's the payoff. And so I just kept doing what I was doing. And at the time on October like 1st or like September, end of September, that's when I switched my brand. My brand was originally Boundless. As soon as I switched that, got a new domain, that was, that was kind of like the pivotal point. I continued with what I was doing, and it almost seemed exponential at like a certain point, because I would go from like, it would go from like 40 to, $80 the next day. And then it would go to 160, and it just kept adding on top of each other. And it got to a point where it's like, okay, this is cool. Like it's paying me back, but when is it going to stop? Like I thought it was like, everything else had failed. And so I was thinking to myself, like, is it going to just keep going? And I wanted it to keep going, but I just didn't expect it to. And I think it's because I was conditioned to the failure beforehand when I did drop shipping, Amazon FBA, SMMA, and all that. And it just continued. And then I eventually hit my first 1K day on December 28th. So, right after Christmas, like right in the middle of the holidays. And I was very kind of secretive about it. And I recommend I was secretive about it, but my mom and my dad, like my parents or my family really knew. But I think there's something to say about staying quiet about what you're working on, because as soon as you tell someone else what you're working on, if you fail, first off, it's embarrassing. But if you tell someone else, you get kind of that dopamine rush of anticipating the outcome, like envisioning the outcome. And that's kind of one of the funnest parts of talking about a business. You're like, explaining like, oh, I'm going to do this and this is going to be the outcome. But talking about it does absolutely nothing. So put the actions in and don't talk about it to anyone. Unless you have a mentor. Like, yeah. Anyway, so that all happened, and then January was kind of steady. Like I'm still in school, right? So it's like I was like trying to fight. It's hard to balance, making money while you're in school. So once the second semester started up, so the semester that I'm in right now, everything was kind of chaotic. I was thinking about like, oh my gosh, like, this can be scaled, but I don't have enough time to be, working on it. And, every time I was in class, I would think about, oh my gosh, what could I be working on right now? And your mind just races through that because being in class, there's no monetary gain. Obviously, you're gaining knowledge to eventually monetize it, but it's just so hard when you're actually making money in the moment, And I think if you don't have a long-term perspective with school and you don't look out to the future, then it's really hard to stay motivated in school. You really have to discipline yourself and create a routine. And I was like that. Like I'm a good student. When you get to a certain level of making money while in school, everything just falls apart. Do I focus on school and then monetize my skill, or do I work on the business? And I know that seems like a very obvious answer, but it's more complicated than that, because you never want to put your eggs like all into one basket. And I've learned that the hard way, especially with like the other business models that I've done. And it was crazy. So I hope that gave you a good overview of how I started. It was a long journey, but it's paid off, and AI books are going wild right now. If you know how to do it correctly, it's the time to do it.